What's up, Sparkman family? It's your boy Sparkman, and welcome back to another Market Watch. First up on the docket is, yes, Battles of Legend Monster Mayhem. Now, we're talking about the newest set today because someone told me today that, there's going to be a lot of short prints in this set, and that's never a good sign. And Konami, well, we should say Konami, taking the opportunity into the set to make a little bit more extra in terms of trying to get people to buy into the set. Now, what I will say is that this set is not really a buy-in set in terms of a meta perspective, because if I were you, I would just buy the singles. Now, there is some collector value to this, as they've put in a lot of cards, and people are gravitating towards that if you're a collector, towards these chibi cards and all these types of things, especially Starlight Rares coming back. So the hype is there. The hype is definitely there for that. The short prints is making that hype even more realistic here in this set as well. But again, it's one of those things where I would tell you to buy singles rather than, sealed. And it seems to be the fashion I've been saying for the past few sets. Whereas last year, it seems as though the sets were thriving. There was a lot going on in terms of profit value, in terms of, buying into the set to get something good. These sets, in the past few sets, they just haven't been buying opportunities to want to open it to get things you need, because in all honesty, you could just buy the things you need for a much cheaper rate than buying into the box, and sometimes it's even cheaper to get a play set of the things you need rather than getting one box. And it's going to be the same kind of, gist I'm going to say here, is that more or less it's definitely worth it just to buy the card versus the sealed box, because again, it's just not worth taking that risk. Now, if you are interested in collecting Starlights, maybe you take a chance at a box, but then again, even the Starlight Rares aren't that pricey, and not to what Starlight Rares was once at back in the days of when it used to be $300, $400, $500. Now you're looking at prices at like under $100 for most of these, because there is a lot of Starlight Rares available in this set, and that's what happens when you create 25 Starlight Rares in a set. Just like your Quarter Century Secret Rares, you get very low price points for a lot of Starlight Rares, same as though you would get for Quarter Century Secret Rares. Now, there are cards to buy into this set. Don't get it mistaken. There are very much cards that people are looking to get. Primary Lord Load is one. Ether Barrel. There's other stuff here as well, from like older archetypes that people are loving because they get to kind of recreate their fan favorite decks like Gem Knight. You also have Fabled in here. You also have a lot of other different mechanics in terms of archetypes that you would like to run in this current day and age. That would be off meta, not really meta. But then again, these are what these sets are for, to give back to those players as well, and upgrade some cards as well here and there. But for the most part, what I will tell you is that this set is definitely not a buy-in set. Just get the stuff you need. But things can go up and down in this set for sure. Depends on what you're looking at. I think Dark Paladin Starlight Rare is a good one. That one's always been a good card to get in any version. I do say that a lot of these Starlight Rares would see itself go down within the next week or two. I think there's a lot of hype right now, but then again, short prints will add on to that effect of these cards skyrocketing as well, so you have to take that into consideration as well. But yeah, man, there's a lot of things to be said about this set. I would give it time. I let it breathe a little bit, because again, this is just one of those sets where you don't want to buy it too early, because then you'll see yourself lose out on a lot of money that you could have been spending on other things. But those are things to consider as well. We look at Alliance Inside as well. It's just another set that seemed to be not all there as well, right? We look at the box sealed, $45 for market price. That is terrible. Like, that is absolutely garbage. And again, these are not like terrible sets, but they're not enough to want the player base to buy into the set. And it is what it is when it comes down to that, because a lot of times we're seeing this year that Konami's not giving us enough oomph in these sets to want to get in and buy into these sets, because they're not doing a huge push on towards meta players wanting to get a bunch of these cards in the set. There are cards here and there you'll need, but not a lot of cards, right? So whereas though you saw in other sets like Rage of the Abyss, Infinite Forbidden, all these sets that had valuable cards that people were kind of like trying to get, versus look at this set and you're like, not really that much stuff. Yeah, there's some high price point Quarter Century Secret Rares, as you would have in Starlight Rares as well, but the Secret Rares, they're not they're not all there. They're not that great, right? If we look at the rarity, right, and we look at secret rares from high to low, I mean, look at the highest secret rare market price, right? $23. I mean, that's not going to call anybody to want to buy sealed, right? So, you got to take it from that perspective. Like, you're not really getting a lot from these sets, and that's something to really, like, for Konami to really look into here, especially for these next few sets that we have coming out, and even to next year. That these are things to really, like, change. If you want people to continue buying into your product, you got to change the format a little bit. You got to change what is happening here, because it's not working, and you can continue to see low sales and people also not carrying these products in their locals and stuff like that, because it's not really worth carrying Yu-Gi-Oh, because when you don't have people buying into the set, what's the point of holding Yu-Gi-Oh at your store, right? So those are things to really think about as well, because that is how you lose a lot of the community right then and there. Though there will be a lot of tournaments for people to have and tournaments to play, you're losing out on a lot of people wanting to go out there and get these boxes at your local. They're going to be rather buying singles, and then again, you're not going to have a lot of people, having singles available because the product's not being opened, and that's why it's a you're kind of at a crossroads here, right? So that's something to really think about as well. Core Century Stampede, man, the hype has died down just a little bit from these rarity collection sets, and what I'll tell you is now might be the best time to start buying into these. Now here's something to consider. If something has not been a Starlight Rare yet, this is where it gets a little tricky, because this is where the hype is really why it's starting to die down for a lot of these cards, is because a lot of these cards are in danger of becoming a Starlight Rare, and that's why you're seeing these price movements start to go and dwindle down just a tad bit. Now, these cards are still amazing. These cards are fantastic. I definitely want them to run in your deck if you want a high rarity version of them. But then again, the fear is there, and that is why you're seeing a lot of the price movements go down, and you're seeing a lot of listings go up as well. Because if we look at past few months, we saw a lot of these listings below 30, and now we're looking at, look, for example, Divine Arsenal AA Zeus Sky Thunder. The alternate artwork for this is you're seeing it at 71 listings. Like, that's we didn't see that before, right? So there's a lot more listings being available here for these cards, and that's why you're seeing price movements start to go down and the market price start to go down for these cards. So things to think about, right? Things to think about as we move forward here, right? Look at Blue Eyes. That thing has gone down way a lot from where it once was. So these are things to really think about as you're moving towards buying stuff in the market. But like I said, you buy low, so this way you can profit high. So right now you're seeing a lot of low price points in the Stampede box. This might be your opportunity to start looking into this set. Now, I talked about it, right? Maze of the Master. It's something to really start selling off, because these collector rares, they don't do well for themselves, right? We keep talking about it, and I'll keep reiterating that and repeating myself, so this way you guys know that I covered this multiple times. The collector rares are something to definitely sell off, because these are in danger. If I'm being completely honest, that would get a reprint in probably the tints coming up, next few months. Maybe another set as well. These are in danger for sure. These are popular meta cards that would see themselves, definitely reprinted, and Konami taking advantage of a reprint for these cards in a different rarity. And then these would come crashing down, because no one's going to run a collector rare versus a Starlight Rare. Who's going to do that? No one. No one's going to do that. Now, if you're a big collector rare fan, this is not coming at you. But for the most part, if you take the audience of the community and they ask which one would you rather, I would guarantee you that 95% of people, and I could even increase that percentage, would say that they're taking a Starlight Rare over a collector rare. So, you just have things to consider on that regard. You sell while it's high, you do not sell while it's low, right? So try your best to try to get rid of those cards. Now, if you're still using them, if you're playing them out, a tournament, whatever, I get it, I understand. But again, these are things to start moving, so that way you can, again, spend on other things moving in the future. And especially if these come a Starlight Rare, I'm going to guess that you're going to want a Starlight Rare versus a collector rare as well. Now, we look at the Starlight Rare market all in all, right? Because this is something that I think we definitely need to talk about, right? We see a lot of these cards that were once close to 1K, $800, $900, all these big, cards that used to have a lot of money on it, now really not there anymore because of the Core Century Secret. And what has been a huge dilemma, or I don't want to say dilemma, but a huge debate in the community is, which would you rather? Would you rather a Core Century Secret Rare, or would you rather a Starlight Rare? And to be honest with you, they're both great, right? I prefer Starlight Rare just because it has a nice more look to it. However, I don't like what they've done recently with all the, Starlight Rare 25 different ones, whatever, trying to repeat the same they did with Course Energy Careers. It is what it is with that, but if you're telling me you're looking at both, put them side to side, I'm still picking a Starlight Rare over a Course Energy Career. That's just me. That's my preference. Again, if you have a different opinion, leave in the comment section down below. Love to hear your opinion as to why you're picking that one over the other. But then again, for me, I'm looking at the card and I'm looking at the both side to side. It just seems a little bit more crisp on the side of the Starlight Rare, just to me though. But again, I know a lot of people have fallen in love with the Course Energy Careers these past 2 years because that's what you've seen a lot. That's what you've been able to get a lot versus the Starlight Rare, right? Starlight Rares are technically still more expensive in that regard if you look on paper here, but for the most part, it definitely has dwindled down to what it once was, right? So unfortunate, I will say that, but it's still, I give it hope that some of these cards would bounce back in value one day. We'll see though. We'll see what happens. We'll see if there's a different rarity that comes out in the future, and then these get outdated, and you never know when these become more valuable, like a Ghost Rare or Ultimate Rare of the past, right? So we'll see what happens. Even QCR thing even go skyrocket up. So we'll see what happens in the future, but for right now, it doesn't look great for the Starlight Rare market. Retro Pack sealed booster box, man. I've been talking about this one for months, man, and now we're down to 5 listings. Yes, there's a lot of quantities of it. We're down to 5 listings, and this is starting to get scary because now we're approaching the area where if there start to be buyers of these things, and with not that many available, because if you really look at this is really under under 60 here available, whatever it is. Can't really do math right now. Not it's like almost like 1 a.m. We're not doing math right now. This is going to be expensive, right? I called it. This was going to be over $200 at some point, and I think within the next year or so, we're probably going to see this one skyrocket towards there, and it wouldn't be a surprise to me. I've been calling it for months. I'm surprised that it's not there already because of how exclusive it was. Again, it's a retail exclusive box, and not even retail because it was only available at like local OTS stores. We'll see what happens with this. I'm not saying that Konami can't reprint this box again, but it is highly unlikely that they would. But we'll see in the future, man. Right now, I have very high hopes for this one to really increase in value. That's just my perspective, the way I look at it. I would love to hear what you have to say as well, because I know a lot of people have different opinions about this one as well. But for something that was so exclusive, very low in quantity to obtain, and very hard to obtain, I wouldn't see why this would increase to $200 in seal value. Yes, a lot of the cards in this set is absolutely garbage. And in terms of garbage, what do I mean by that? Not to criticize the set in terms of what's in it, because it's beautiful cards, right? I love the cards in this, but the value, man, the value just isn't there in this set at all, right? The way it looks is fantastic. Everything about the set is fantastic, but the value is utterly garbage. I mean, we look at this, the Red Eyes, Dark Magician, like look at these cards. They're under like $4 in market price. That's almost ridiculous and unheard of. But that's what it's holding right now. Look at the Blue Eyes, right? The Blue Eyes was like holding such a high value for the first month of this set, and then it's under $6 in market price. That's a little weird. That's a little weird to me, but this is what happens sometimes with these sets, right? So they were mass produced for sure. At least the Retro Pack, mini box was. But I still think to this day that these prices should not hold where it's at. I still think it should be higher. Yes, they increased the pull rate, but again, these are cards that are very much loved in this community. And I think one day these cards would bounce back in value. But we'll see. I mean, this was readily available to the community. A lot of the cards were very easy to pull. I still think the secrets were a little harder here and there, but for the most part they were easily available, so there's that as well. So there's argument to be made here, but for the most part the sealed box, the exclusive box, should be going up very soon in time. Dragon Master Magia, I've been talking about this card, and I don't want anyone to forget about this card either. I've said it again and again. this is one of those cards where you just don't want to hold on to, because as much as it is such a beautiful card and it is a high rarity card, it's an expensive card in the QCR market, and probably one of the more expensive QCRs, if not the most expensive, which probably is. I just wouldn't trust this card holding this value, just because I can see Konami really going back and being like, well, this card is really high, it's going to grab a lot of attention, let's put it in the tints, let's put it in something, right? They will probably make this a Starlight Rare very, very soon, and it's something to really be concerned about if I was someone that had this card. I've said it again in the past, you should have sold it at $900, you should have sold it at $1,100, you should have sold it at $800, it's now at $700. I would still consider really selling this one at $700. This one can jump real quick down to $400 if that Starlight Rare is made, right? So this is something to consider. You can always rebuy it back for cheaper, but get your money while you can, because this is probably going to get reprinted into a Starlight Rare, if not almost guaranteed into a Starlight Rare. Now, one of the mistakes I made the past year or two was not buying into this at $500, because good lord, did not expect this to go to $2,000. And to be honest with you, the fact that there are sales that are reaching there, because if you include tax and everything, it's probably way above 2,000. It's quite shocking. It's quite shocking. I'm not gonna lie to everybody. I want to hear your thoughts on this as well, because I think this is the most shocking, profit movement in terms of what this is. I mean, yes, it's beautiful. I prefer the OCG one still, but damn, for this one to be at $2,000, oh my god, I don't know. This is one of those things where I almost feel it's very dangerous too, where we saw the reappearance of the metal god card display get reprinted kind of. I would almost be scared to hold on to this at this price point, at least, because I'd be worried that Konami would go back and say, hey, we're doing another round of briefcases, and this would deplete this value a lot. But it's crazy that this is at $2,000. But again, that's something to hold in the back of your mind, that Konami can always again do another round of these, and that is what's scary to a lot of the community members out there as well. So keep that in mind, man. Keep that in mind. It does say for one time only, but you can never trust this company. It says for one time only, and then they have another round. Just be aware of that. One thing that I've noticed, I'm not sure if a lot of people have noticed this as well, these tints are kind of bouncing back, and it's a lot to do with the promos of this as well, especially for this tin. Obviously we had all those promos on this tin, and you're starting to see that price movement start to increase a little bit over time. Now, not a lot, it's not a lot, but it's starting to creep up. And this was really cheap at some point. I think it was $120. So you're starting to see the price point really increase for this one. And we've talked about this one extensively on this channel as well. We've seen this increased a lot over time because of a lot of the amazing cards in this set as well. A lot of these cards haven't gotten reprinted, and you're seeing a lot of the value that's in this set, right? Chaos Angel, the Blue Eyes, of course. There's just so many amazing cards in this one. Vanquishal has seen itself really gone up in value. Stake Your Soul, to, for example, Triple Tactic Star. There's a lot of great cards in this one, and the sealed value of this has seen itself really done well for itself as well. And you can't be too surprised about this one as well. Evil Zordoka is something to really think about grabbing, everybody, because I'm telling you, you see this graph right here? It's going to start picking back up. For Dino fans out there, you're going to be, wanting to get this early, because if not, you're probably going to see yourself really missing out on the opportunity of this one, as this one will probably go towards $20 or plus eventually. So, this is something to consider, especially for these Dino fans. You gotta grab those cards while you can, especially when they're $10 and below as QCRs. Those are gimmies, man. Those are gimmies. Harpy's Feather Duster from the early days collection promo that's in that video game. I'm just as shocked as everybody that this is even holding at $30. That one's holding at $40, which is absolutely wild. And a lot of people have been telling me that they think that this is going to go even more up towards the moon. So that's very interesting. So I mean, you're basically getting the value of the game with the card. So I mean, why wouldn't you just buy the game, right? At this point, it's basically almost a free game, because you're getting the value of what it is right now. So that's very interesting, if I'm being honest. Chimaera Jack Overdragon is another card to put on your radar. 16 listings, very low, and you can see the graph starting to increase as well. Yes, not by a lot, but it's getting there, right? Look at the listings here, right? We're very close to that $10 price point. So, you know, this is something to consider picking up as well before we reach that $10 and above price point. Now, the last thing I want to talk about is Blackwings, because I think Blackwings are going to get support very soon. It's one of the more favorite archetypes out there, right? In the past, present, and now. I will say a lot of the future that we will see with a lot of Yu-Gi-Oh players that are loving a lot of older archetypes making a comeback. This is just one of those archetypes that, you know, eventually we'll see its reappearance again. And when it does, these QCRs are going to skyrocket, and you do not want to miss out on the opportunity to buy into these QCRs while they're relatively cheap, right? I'm not going to say they're cheap, because by no means is $18 cheap, but it's relatively cheap to what it could be in the future as well. So this is something to consider, because once you hear Blackwing get support, you're going to start seeing these buyouts, and then this one, $18, going to be $60, right? We've seen it with other stuff. We've seen it that happen to other things. Don't miss out on your opportunity to buy in early, because then you really will miss out on a great price tag. But that's about it for today's Market Watch. I want to hear what your thoughts and opinions are. We went a little bit in a deep dive into a lot of things today, and I want to talk about a little bit more in depth about, you know, the market today. But, you know, I wanted to kind of just, you know, analyze a little bit more today in Market Watch, because there's a lot of things going on, and it's the reason why we're seeing a lot of price movements. But yeah, that's about it. Love to hear your thoughts and opinions, anything I missed, and things that I should cover in the next Market Watch. But that's about it. From usually Sparkman. We'll catch you next one. Please try and comment, and peace out, YouTube.